This budget has been dubbed the pre-election budget, which to me suggests a budget that is focused on winning over Australian voters in the short term, as opposed to the longer term challenges that Australia really needs to be addressing.
I think that's a pretty fair characterisation of what we got last night. There's plenty there for households. Tax cuts are always going to be popular. Putting a bit more money back in people's pockets through utilities rebates, which will now run through to the end of 2025. Equally popular. I think there's a much stronger political justification than an economic justification for some of these moves. Notwithstanding the fact that bracket creep, has been pretty strong over the last couple of years. You can kind of justify tax cuts on those grounds. But yeah, it's going to be difficult for the opposition to find a lot to kind of go hard against in this budget.
Sean, you say that tax cuts are always going to be popular, and yet when you look at the actual numbers, it feels like, and excuse me for saying this, because obviously every single little bit does help, especially at the moment, but it feels like a drop in the ocean, kind of like the tax cuts you give when you don't really want to give a tax cut.
Look, it is a small impact, and it doesn't hit straight away. It comes through from the middle of next year if legislated. There is another kick along the following year, so you're up to about $500 annually. Look, it's not a lot, but it will make a difference to some, and of course it does hit the lower end of the tax brackets, so it does hit everyone in the earning distribution. So every bit helps, but to me it feels a little bit like we're fighting yesterday's battles. Given that we've got real income growth growing again, we've got the labour market in a really good spot. It doesn't kind of scream to me that we need to be giving a ton more cost of living relief.
And so what does that mean long term, Sean, for the Aussie dollar?
Look, I think, I don't think any of the moves that we're talking about in the budget, are going to sway markets too much. There's nothing here that kind of rings alarm bells when it comes to debt sustainability or the level of debt that the government will need to take out. The budget bottom line has been very little changed as a result. They're now seeing kind of stronger revenue growth coming through from the labour market. So really, what they're kind of giving on one hand with tax cuts and additional spending, they're expecting to recoup. And it probably means that, the risks around the Treasury's projections are a little more skewed to the downside now, given that they're a little bit more optimistic. But I think, for the Aussie dollar, the budget will be, fairly well received, maybe a little bit of strength there, but I'd expect that to get kind of trumped by all of the ructions that are going on in the global economy at the moment.